You are listening to Viewpoints from Place Cloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
It's quite possible that in your time in London, you've attended a show at the Brixton Academy. Brixton Academy is one of London's largest and most popular music venues, with shows showcasing a diverse array of musical talent. The venue is located in the heart of Brixton, the historic center of London's Afro-Caribbean cultural community. As London's economy waned in the 1970s, Brixton fell on hard times. In the media, it became a symbol of blight, symptomatic of an urban crisis not unlike the one being experienced across the Atlantic. One key element of this was the media creation of a moral panic around muggings and the association in the white imagination between people of color and crime. Because of its resident struggles with both racism and poverty, Brixton became shorthand for urban problems, especially for Black youth, so much so that even in cases of crimes that took place outside of Brixton and had nothing to do with Brixton, it would be dragged into the discussion by journalists attempting to contextualize the crime. Brixton was ground zero of the tension between young Black men and the Metropolitan Police, and this all came to a head in April of 1981. The second weekend of the month saw large-scale street-level uprisings featuring widespread property destruction, violent clashes between young people and police officers, and a strong backlash against the uprising from the press. The media portrayed the riots in racial terms and further stigmatized Brixton as a dangerous space filled with angry young Black people. This despite the fact that the arrest records from that evening actually show that most of the people arrested were white, not Black. However, the uprisings in Brixton and elsewhere in Britain spurred national movements to increase funding for businesses in neglected urban areas. It was into this fraught period in Brixton's history that the Brixton Academy emerged as a major venue for rock and roll. The building that would house the Academy sat empty in early 1983, and it was at that point that a young, cocky public school graduate named Simon Parks made what he has since described as a ludicrous offer to pay only a single £1 for the building, in addition to offering the freeholder exclusive beer contracts for the next decade. He desired a space he could live out his dreams of running a rock music venue, and the large former cinema just a short walk from Brixton Station presented a perfect opportunity. Parks was the grandson of a fish magnate and a former classmate of Prince Andrew. His only first-hand experience with Brixton was driving through the area during his childhood as their family made their annual trip to the Epsom Derby. He was simultaneously part of the economic elite, but also saw himself as a self-described scrapper and a feisty underdog. Qualities heightened by a birth defect, the result of thalidomide complications that meant he was born missing part of his arm. This led to an identity duality that seemed to have followed Parks throughout most of his life, which makes it all the more fitting that he should try to open a rock venue in the middle of a neighborhood that served as the heart of British reggae. That turned out to be a challenge initially for Parks. His memoir outlined how one of the major obstacles for getting white artists to play at his new academy was dealing with bookers who were much more keen to see their artists perform at established venues like the Hammersmith Odeon. He remembers booker after booker saying the same thing to him, quote, "You'll never get a rock band to play in Brixton." With rock booking agents not cooperating, Parks was left strapped for cash, and he began to look for different ways to make money. He began looking to book gigs targeting the local Afro-Caribbean community. The first show he successfully booked was on the 7th of October, 1983, and it featured a relatively obscure Jamaican artist named Eek-A-Mouse on part of his UK tour with his reggae act. Next, he brought an African dance troupe to perform, and then a show that featured several smaller reggae acts catering to the local Black community. While Parks's turn to the local community was not what he had envisioned in his initial bid to purchase the Academy, he quickly adapted. Entrepreneurs had long found creative ways of courting alternative market segments. In London, from the late 19th century, this included a growing queer community. The proliferation of pink pound market strategies set an example for Parks to adapt in his venue to cater to what some might call the Black pound. After sustaining the venue for a few months on this strategy, Parks worked to build an environment that could fuse his initial rock dreams with Brixton's consumer base. The venue's first major show to draw Black and white youth together occurred in early 1984, after a local unemployed young black man convinced UB40 to play the Academy and secured himself long-term employment at the venue in doing so. UB40 was an image of what Parks and others at the Academy hoped they could become, a racially diverse group playing reggae music for a popular wide-scale audience. After booking UB40, the Academy achieved success in booking several well-known acts, appealing to audiences from well beyond Brixton. In December of 1984, the Academy hosted punk rock reggae fusion group The Clash in a 2-day set known at the time as Arthur Scargill's Christmas Party, a charity fundraiser for striking coal miners. The Academy secured the Scargill event largely because they offered the venue up for free at a time when many of London's venues had grown weary of hosting the frequently destructive punk shows. The Radicals hosting and attending the show would only have accepted the venue's generous offer because it lived up to their standard of radicalism. Around the same time, mainstream white acts continued booking the venue as its reputation grew. In 1985, 2 A-list rock stars, Pete Townsend of The Who and David Gilmour of Pink Floyd, graced the stage, and by the end of 1986, The Smiths, a far cry musically and demographically from Mickey Mouse, played their final show ever at an anti-apartheid event at the Brixton Academy. To many of these acts, playing Brixton may well have been seen as a political act, like playing Rock Against Racism gigs would have been a few years earlier. Brixton was a symbolic heart of anti-Thatcher resistance, with rate-capping rebellions and the 1981 and 1985 uprisings boosting its profile as a site of resistance. Townsend, for example, was a supporter of Rock Against Racism and provided technical support for the 1978 carnival against the Nazis. The Smiths brought themselves to Brixton during an era when they acted as a strong left-wing voice for the industrial Northwest, amid deindustrialization and social disintegration. The choice to view and use Brixton this way did not necessarily require playing shows primarily to Brixton residents. Instead, the district acted as a stage on which white radicals could demonstrate their own anti-racist bona fides. They could show that they didn't fear going to a neighborhood so closely associated with Black Britons, even if the audiences at most of these shows did not reflect this. Despite Parks' success at the Academy and the rise of other popular venues, such as the Fridge in Brixton, the level of everyday violence and gang activity experienced by those living in Brixton should not be forgotten. The Academy had multiple incidents involving armed robbery, and management feared for the safety of people going to and from the railway station. Parks' memoir, without going into too much detail, describes how arrangements were made with local gang leaders to protect customers going to and from the shows at his venue. This arrangement allowed Londoners from outside the area to visit Brixton while safe from the everyday violence of life in the community. Simultaneously, though, the secret nature of the agreement allowed the customers to remain unaware of the protection that they were under. They were therefore free to trade on the radical chic of Brixton streets and their own experiences there without any of the dangers associated. While the social conditions in Brixton improved slightly in the mid-1980s, they again hit a flashpoint in September of 1985 when the police shot Dorothy Cherry Gross, the mother of a young man for whom they were searching. Because of its location near the police station, an uprising occurred right outside of Parks' Academy. When violence broke out, Parks was at a wedding with an old bunny friend of his and went down to Brixton dressed in formal regalia to keep an eye on the venue. It was at this point when he claimed to have realized that his sympathies in the uprising lay with the young, diverse Brixtonites, his customers, his staff, and most importantly, the people he saw as his friends. Because of his business, Parks claimed that he was part of Brixton, a community once again pushed to the point of taking to the streets, and he and his club were not going to desert them. From a financial standpoint, Parks also noted that the uprisings helped further consolidate the Academy's rebel chic credentials. By 1989, the Academy had outpaced Parks' early self-designated rival, the Hammersmith Odeon, in booking major rock and roll gigs. The Academy even made headlines in the stodgy Sunday Times, where Parks was profiled as the, quote, king of gigs. Recording artists from seemingly all genres, including top rock acts, George Michael, and even the queen of pop music, Diana Ross, were now playing at a rock venue located in the home of British reggae. As the 90s progressed, the Brixton Academy and Brixton more broadly became the original home in London for American rap and hip-hop. By showcasing acts like NWA and Snoop Dogg, the Academy took up the mantle of promoting transatlantic black music while still hosting new romantics and post-punk bands. The racial makeup at various types of shows fluctuated, but the customer base was regularly diverse. Hip-hop's base market was primarily young and black, though like many other forms of music with that target market, there was cultural cachet with young white people, particularly young white men as well. By the mid-90s, Brixton's nightlife, whether that be rap, rave, post-punk, or guitar rock, was a major feature of the Cool Britannia movement. The Academy won Venue of the Year at every NME award between 1995 and 2000. It presented a diverse, multicultural entertainment scene that thrived on massive commercial success. And it was undoubtedly somewhat fundamental to the demographic change that would be central to all discussions of Brixton in the decades to come.